Hi, welcome to TLC's Creative Art Corner. I'm Miss Susan and I hope you had a blessed week. Today we are going to explore more optical art using the hexagon and colors. A hexagon is a six-sided polygon shape with inside angles of 120 degrees and all the sides are equal. Now, what can you do with this? Let me show you some examples of what we can do with this hexagon. So it's not going to look like this when we're done. Okay, this first example is done with watercolor and it's done on smooth paper, which is okay. I used complementary colors. I used green and red, they're complementary. And each box, there's only 2 layers on these boxes, okay, and these hexagons. And I used the color, the tint, and the shade. The color, the color, the tint, and the shade. Now, and then I reversed it for the background just to show you how the colors do different things when complementary colors are next to each other. And as you can see, there's 3 colors here and 3 colors on the outside. That's one example. Okay, the second example is done just with green, with the color, the tint, and the shade. This is the green, this is the tint, and this is the shade. And there's 3 layers on this one. And I painted it. Actually, I used wax crayon. It's not paint, it's wax crayon, and I just did it on a white background. I did the same one using black as a background so that you can see the colors. When it's surrounded by black, it goes to the background, and when they're in the front, they come to the foreground. So you get these different illusions. Okay, now this third one is I used analogous colors. And if you remember, analogous colors are 3 to 5 colors next to each other on the color wheel. Well, I chose 3 colors. So I went from the greenish into the green blue into the blue. And so each layer has 3 colors. Okay, there's 3 colors. They're all the same. Here's this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one, this one, this one. So they're all there. Okay, and you get, it's still 3 layers and you get a different illusion, but yet same. So this is one illusion, and then when you turn it the other way, you get another illusion. And if you continue to turn it, you get yet another illusion. So that's what's fun about the hexagon. Okay. And this one I used 5 layers. And most of the outer layers are all the same. These 4 layers are the same size, and then you get to the middle, and it's probably about twice the size. And then I surrounded it with blue. I could have painted the whole thing, but I didn't. I just was playing with the watercolors. And this is done with watercolor pencils. And I use the shades of green and an orange, and then blue and orange are complementary. And the orange and the green they're not next to each other. I mean, they're not opposite each other, but they're opposite and one over. So there is a little contrasting there, a little vibrating. So anyway, again, if you turn it, you get a different feel to it, a different optical illusion. And this last one I just used the primary colors on this one. Rather than yellow, because the yellow in the watercolor was so vibrant, I thought, oh, let's knock it down a little bit. So I used this oranger color. But it's the same. So you can note here that there's 3 colors in each layer. So when you go around, and then the next layer, there's no orange is not touching orange again. Red is not touching red again. So they're all separated by the one other color. That's what makes this illusion come alive. So as you can see, as you turn it, you get a different illusion with every turn. Okay? So what materials will you need? Well, for this project, you are going to need a hexagon. Now for that, I want you to go and watch the YouTube video, How to Make a Hexagon from a Square from Origami Tree. I want you to follow Jenny as she guides you step by step to make a hexagon, and it is surprisingly easy. If I can do it, it can be done. The link is in the description below. Now before you go to the video, you need to make your square. So you can make a 7-inch or a 17-centimeter square. And I suggest that you just use copy paper for that. And then this is going to be your template for your project that you'll be tracing it. Okay? Then after that, you want to protect your surface You want to wear an apron. You're going to need a pencil, an eraser, for sure an eraser, and a ruler. And you can use A4 copy paper for this project, or you can use watercolor paper. You know, 190 grams to 300 grams is fine. And then I'm going to use oil pastels. You're going to need paper towels, and you can have a cloth. I always have a cloth. I love my cloth, okay? Now, if you don't have oil pastels, you can use colored markers. You can use watercolors, you can use wax crayons, and I showed you those in the samples earlier. So whatever you have is the best thing to use, but my focus today will be using oil pastels. So now hit pause, go watch the video, make your hexagon, come on back with it and your materials, and we'll do the project together. Welcome back. So now we have our hexagon, and this is going to be our template for the project. Now the first thing you're going to do is you're going to trace it on the paper. So I'm using watercolor paper because I like the way that it holds the oil pastels, but you can use whatever paper you have. That's the best paper to use. And you can decide if you want to put it this way, however way you want to work it. But I'm going to put mine on this way and sort of have it centered on the paper. And then I'm going to trace around it with my pencil. Now I'm going to trace a little bit darker, but you don't have to do dark. You can do light because you're the only one that needs to see it, but you need to see me do this on the video. So it should look like this. Do you want to see it? So it should look like this. Next thing you're going to do is take your ruler and you're going to draw a line from angle to opposite angle. So, and you should do this lightly, but I'm going to do mine darker so that you can see it. And then we're going to be erasing some of it later. So not a problem. Okay. And they should all intersect in the center like this. So your paper will look like this. Now when you have this, you're going to take your ruler, and rather than measure, I always use the ruler that has different marks on it that I can trace around rather than measure a specific measurement. So I'm going to use this long line here that goes all the way down the ruler. It's the same on both sides. Some rulers are, you know, marked off every 1/8 of an inch or whatever, it doesn't matter. But anyway, I'm going to choose this line, and I'm going to draw a line all the way around from the outer edge inward, from the line we just put to the next line. Okay, and I'm going to go all the way around. And this can be fairly dark because you're not going to erase these lines. Okay, and then you can move your piece around. And this is what our paper should look like. Now the next thing we do after this, we're going to do the same process, only it's going to be a bigger section. This time we're going to use the whole width of the ruler. Some rulers are bigger than others, and that's perfectly okay. Last week I think I had a much wider ruler. So I'm laying the ruler down and I'm using the outside edge like I did the first time around, and I'm going to come from the inside lines that I drew, just from it should look like this. Now what we have to do, now we have more than 3 spaces on each layer, so we have to figure out which one to keep, which to erase, what to keep, what to erase. Now we're going to take our eraser and we're going to decide where we're going to erase on these lines that we did from angle to angle. So I'm going to start at the top and I'm going to erase this first little bit. Okay, and I'm going to keep the next line, and then I'm going to erase this line. So I'm going to go around and go straight down, rather, as I go around, and every other line. So erase, keep, erase, keep, erase. Okay, and I'm going to keep this one. Okay, so now I'm going to keep this one and this one. Okay, so I'm going to the next angle. Since this one I erased, this one I'm going to keep. So I'm going to keep that one, and then I'm going to erase the next one. And I'm going to keep this one, erase the next one, keep this one, and erase this outer one. And I'm going to go to the next one, and since I kept this one, I'm going to erase this one. And it's the same process all the way around. So keep, erase, keep, erase, keep, erase, keep. Okay. And now I'm back to the beginning. So this has made us to have 3 layers, or 3 spaces in each layer. Okay, this is 1 space, and if you want, you can make these a little darker so you know where they are. Okay, this is 1 space, this is another space on the outer edge, and this is 1 space, 1 space, 1 space. Okay, and then the inner space would be here, here, and here. Okay, and then the next one is here. Now this interesting thing here that I want to point out, this looks like a box, but it's 6 sides still. But it looks like it's a square. Interesting. Okay, so this is what you should look like now. Now we're going to decide our color palette. Now I've chosen this brown scale of colors, so I marked my paper here that my hue or my color was going to be this one, so that's color number 1. Color number 2 is the tint, and I wrote it down here so I don't forget, and then color number 3 is the shade. So that's what you want to do. Now on the paper though, we have to mark where we're going to put number 1, number 2, number 3. So we're going to start at the top, in this first one I'm going to put number 1. This is my color 1. Okay, and I can take my color 1 and sort of mark it, okay? And then skip this, and I'm going to mark number 1 here as well. And this is going to be my number 1. Okay, and then skip this line, and this is going to be my number 1. So I'm going to mark it as number 1. My number 2 is going to be my tint. So I'm going to start over here, okay, and this is going to be my number 2. And this will be my number 2, I'll mark it, and this will be my number 2, and I'll mark it. Okay. And then what's ever left over is going to be my number 3. Okay, so I have an outer one here, this is going to be 3, so I've gone 1, 2, 3, it's going this way around, 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to mark it. Okay. And then in the middle, see I have 1, 2, and here's 3, so I'm going to mark it. Also do here. Now if you were doing this with watercolor, before you used watercolor you would want to erase the little number, but this is to keep you organized, okay? And this is number 3 right here. So you have a 1, a 2, and a 3. 1, 2, 3, and then you have 1, 2, 3. So each thing you have, each level has 3 colors. There you go. Now before you actually begin to color, you want to have a piece of paper here to clean your crayons, because the crayon or the oil pastel always picks up other colors, so you don't want to get it contaminated. So before you color, you want to clean it off. And if also they tend to build up, I've talked about this in the other video, the first video that we did on oil pastels, that it builds up. So you want to be sure you get those shavings off, and then when you color it, you can get the color off there. And then you want another piece of paper to put down while you're coloring one color, so that in case you're resting, you end up resting your hand, you don't want to smudge any of the colors. So you want to work from the center out. So let's begin. I'm going to start with my number 1 color. And I'm going to start in the center and come out. I got to be sure I have my number 1 color in the right place. Yeah, it's number 1. Okay. And I'm just going to color it in. You can scribble it in any way you want. Okay, this is really... And don't worry about going over the line a little bit. It's perfectly okay. So what you can do, there's 2 ways to go about this. See here I got this little clump, so I want to get rid of that. You can either do 1, 2, and 3 in the middle, or you can do all your 1s and then all your 2s and then all your 3s. So I'm going to go ahead and do all my number 1s while I have the crayon in my hand, just so that I don't get confused, because we all can get confused. Okay, so as you can see here, the color is, the crayon is clumping or shavings off or whatever, because that's what the soft, depending on the brand, some don't do that, you know. Don't you want to get it off? Okay, there we go. Now I'm going to come here to the next number 2, excuse me, number 1. That was number 1. Number 1 is here. And if I want, I can just erase my number 1 so that just in case it doesn't come through. And I have my thing here. So if you can, sometimes you're able to do it without resting your hand, but sometimes you just get more control, you feel you have more control if you rest your hand. And the oil pastels work just as well on copy paper, so it's not a problem. The paper, don't let not having the right paper, the so-called right paper, inhibit you from using your materials, you know. So even if you just did this with crayon or watercolor, it's the same process. And I showed you the different examples earlier, what can be done. And if all else fails, you could just do it with pencil and use a lighter pencil, a darker, and a real light one. So you just continue that process all the way around until they're all done, and then this is your finished product. And as you can see, if you turn it, it's different, and then it's different, and then you come back. So that's the illusion. Now the last thing I want to do, I want to put mine on mounted. I want to mount mine on construction paper. So I'm going to cut this out, and I'm going to put it on blue construction paper, because blue, this is basically an orange tone, so blue and orange are complementary colors. So I'm going to cut mine out and mount it on blue construction paper. So this is my finished masterpiece. Now if you wanted, I could have left it white, but my white background always is messy, so I decided that I really needed to cut it out and mount it. But you could mount it on white, you could mount it on black, you can mount it on any color you want. I just chose to put it on the complementary color. Now the most important thing about this whole project is that you use 3 colors. They can be primary colors, your 3 favorite colors, analogous colors, it doesn't matter, it's up to you. You're the artist. Well, I hope you enjoyed this Hexagon optical illusion and the video to make it. For me, the video was so much easier than using math equipment, so I thank you, Origami Tree. I'm amazed at the effects that can be achieved using different colors, the tints, and the shades. And notice as you turn it, you get these different colors that pop out, and I just think that's so wonderful. It's that 3D effect, you know. I look forward to seeing your illusions. So please send your masterpiece to the address there on the screen, and we'll post them on TLC's website. And your suggestions and comments are always welcome. Tell me how difficult it was for you, or what you found easy, or whatever. Tell me what you enjoyed. Okay, until next time, stay safe, be healthy, and be a blessing to others. Bye-bye.